Welcome back to Proper Madness. I'm happy to have you back if you're a returning listener. If you're a new listener, my name is Sabi, and I have a very unique perspective on mental health. I believe wholeheartedly that we can turn anything that we have been through and alchemize it into bettering ourselves mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It helps you feel less alone, to know and understand that the way out is always through the eye of the storm. Grab a cup of tea. If you're not a tea drinker, grab your coffee, and let's sit down and tune into ourselves so that we can learn to connect to other people. We never know the weight of our words and how they might help someone. Hi, hello. Hello, welcome. Okay, so been a while since I've sat down and done a podcast, hasn't it? So here we are. Anyways, did I do a podcast already with my background? It's been so long since I've done a podcast episode that I honestly can't remember what I spoke about last time, and I think that's okay. But we're just going to be talking about what I usually talk about, what I'm moving through. And I think there's a difference between being perceived and being seen. Being seen to me means that like you have the willingness for people to see you, whether that's positive or negative. But when it comes to actually being perceived, that can be open to interpretation by your audience, by people, your loved ones. It doesn't matter who it is. The perception of you is something that I think a lot of us like to manage. I know I've been guilty of it. I've been guilty of managing how other people perceive me, because growing up I was so focused on what people thought about me 24/7, right? Like I had a really cool conversation with a friend of mine recently where we were talking about how I've noticed that, like, you're not going to notice this because I'm filming this from like the neck up, but I've been very diligent in working on myself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and I've noticed that the better that I feel about myself physically and the more attention that I get physically, I actually want to shrink and hide and be invisible. Whereas you would think, like, okay, if I have more confidence because of what I look like physically, I'd want to take up space. Like, I post things that show myself. I'm not afraid to be in front of the camera, but to be honest, like, there is fear of how I'm going to be perceived about 90% of the time. Like, I'm nitpicking how my body looks. I'm nitpicking, oh my God, does this angle make my face look this way? Do I look old? Like, it's just like a lot of different insecurities that come into my mind anytime I'm done filming and I'm in post editing, right? And so obviously with any sort of like filmmaking or artistic background, when we go and edit things, we want to take away all the things that we perceive not to be beautiful. But I remember anytime I would get my photos done, like taken by someone else, it's interesting. I never trusted the beauty that they saw in me. Like, I never wanted to trust how they saw me, so I always wanted control over choosing the photos that I thought were better because I had a very, like, detailed eye for, like, certain flaws and, you know, whatever. And I think because I grew up, like, overweight and very small and short, I was made fun of for my height. And a friend of mine came to visit me on Friday at my new place, and we were just catching up, and I told her, I go, yeah, actually, like, my mom had to give me growth hormones. Like, I went to the doctor to go get growth hormones because I was so short that I was so self-conscious with my height that I wanted to do anything and everything to change that because I wanted to fit in and I wanted to stop being... People would call me midget because they didn't know how tall I was. They'd always be like, oh, are you 4'9"? I feel like that's the legal height of what a midget is. And I'm like, well, excuse me? Like, what? That's not my height. I am 5 feet tall, but it's a huge insecurity that I have, right? And now anytime I meet anyone, they see me online and then they see me in person and they're like, oh my gosh, your energy is so big and your presence is so magnetic that, like, when I thought I was going to meet you, I thought you were going to be like a, a normal heighted person. And people don't understand that that's still an insecurity that I carry a little bit. But as I've gotten older, it hasn't mattered as much, especially with dating, with, I don't know, with just working on yourself a little bit more. You tend to care a lot less. And then the other big insecurity that I had is like when I was young, I actually got curves earlier than most women. Like my hips grew fast. And so back then, the body type that was, quote, fashionable and in style were women that were, didn't have a lot of curves and were very skinny, and not genetically, okay, there's a difference. I have girlfriends of mine that are genetically very, very thin, and that's their insecurity, right? They wish that they look like me, and I wish that I look like them, and that's just kind of how it works sometimes. But back then, that was like what men desired. And of course, I'm a young woman. I don't know, I don't know what's attractive and what's not attractive. And then you throw in some neurodivergency in there, and I'm trying to figure out social cues and how to communicate with people. And I had a lot of social anxiety because I had no confidence. I was being made fun of with the way that I looked. People hated my voice. They said I had such a deep, manly voice. Now look at me. I have a podcast. People love it. And then with the curves, like, people would make fun of my hips. And so all the things that made me me, all the things that I never really thought were insecurities, there was like a huge flashlight on the things that I never even considered were bad or wrong. I just thought, well, this is me, and I don't really care. So then throw in my goth punk phase, which I talk about many, 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 many times, right? As a sign of rebellion. But I think the truth behind that is I wanted to protect myself. And I felt like if I was happy and I was outgoing and I took up space and I was light and I was bubbly and more feminine, I'd get taken advantage of. So what did I do? I put on a persona and an energy that made me feel protected, right? And in doing that, in shape-shifting myself to be a version of me that protected me, I just wanted to hide. Like, I wanted to be invisible, but then somehow I still stuck out, right? Because I was still being different. It was a very interesting juxtaposition of like, I want to be invisible, but also in being invisible and doing something different and being on the darker side, I actually stood out. And so, of course, I'm going to, if I don't have a protector, right, outside of me, I'm going to somehow try to figure out how to be my own and to not take up space and to not fit in and to not speak up. And then on top of that, I went to a school with smart people. So I had 3 learning disabilities, which I've mentioned before. I've done my the episode and the video of my story, and I'll link it here if you want to go watch it. But I had an auditory processing disorder, ADD, not ADHD. It was different, right? There's hyperactive and then normal ADD. My sister has ADHD. And then just a little bit of dyslexia, but I kind of moved past that quick. That kind of helped make sense of things for me. But back then, like in school, if I gave a wrong answer when the teacher called on me, if I tried to participate and say something smart, teacher wouldn't say it was wrong. They would just be like, huh. They're like, I never thought about it that way. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, I don't know. Like, what does that mean? So think about my environment, how I grew up, what I went through, and then who I had to become to protect myself. Now, we've all been there. It's not just me. That's just an example, right? We've all had to become different versions of ourselves to fit in. So either we stand out because we feel invisible, or we're standing out. People are noticing us. They're criticizing us. We're feeling really like not great about it. And then we shut down and we become invisible. So for the last 2 weeks, I've really been struggling with being seen, taking up space, and allowing myself to be seen and criticized no matter what. It's been very hard for me because there's a lot of other trauma around being seen and perceived that I had to deal with too. And that'll be a video that I post next week. just because that's like a story and a trauma that I want to do justice to help a lot of people that maybe have been through something similar. And, we will circle back to that. That was very difficult for me to deal with too. And it had to do with sexuality and sensuality and taking up space and allowing myself to be perceived as beautiful and attractive, because believe it or not, that would make me feel insecure too. Because automatically when any man would perceive me, they'd put me into like one singular category, but I'm willing to argue it was my energy a little bit too, but I'm not going to take accountability for how other people perceive me. But my energy at the time was, what we call pick me. So I'm sure you can connect the dots there. So I would get very frustrated that any man that I wanted something serious with didn't, because I wasn't presenting myself with an energy of someone that should be taken seriously. However, and it's taken me a long time to feel comfortable in my own skin and to own my present and to show up and to even post like videos of myself dancing and pole dancing, and to automatically not have people make an assumption about me of like, I feel awkward even talking about it. Like there's a friend of mine from the gym, every so often he'll like will make a joke about like, oh, like, are you dancing? And then I feel awkward even talking about it because I'm concerned with how he's going to perceive me just because I say I'm a pole dancer and then I happen to be an attractive woman and I happen to have a lot of curves and look like a woman, So it's like, that's where my brain goes. It's not an assumption. It's just like what my brain has done based off of the conditioning that I went through, right? So there's shame around me showing up and being seen as I am. I get scared to post selfies because I'm like, oh my gosh, if I post how good I look, is someone automatically not going to take me more seriously? And then they're going to put me in that box again that I don't want to be in. So there's like a noticeable theme my entire life of being perceived and taking up space no matter how I look or no matter how I don't look. It's either like once I'm seen, I want to be invisible, and then once I'm invisible, I want to be seen. And so to kind of go back and forth in between those two things is a really weird feeling. And I have a lot of really good friends of mine that are on the internet, are creators, are always attracting followers because their energy is willing to be seen. It doesn't mean they're comfortable with it or uncomfortable with it, but they've found a way to like energetically go, yeah, I want to be seen, I want to be perceived, I'm okay being seen, I'm okay being perceived and attracting a lot of attention. Doesn't mean they don't have their own shit that they deal with, but also like they have a willingness to show up. I've had that willingness, but not really. Like I'd cut down what I would say. I would make sure I didn't offend someone because we live in a world where everyone gets offended by something. I posted a video, I think like a month ago, and I got a lot of hate on it on YouTube and Facebook, and I was like, what the hell? I'm like, I posted a video saying that I left my family business to go follow my dreams, and the comments that I got were like, well, you had the stability and the comfortability and the money probably to go and do that. And I went, what the hell does that have to do with me having the courage to say sayonara to comfort and safety? Because that's what I did. Be broke and in debt for like a few months and still pursue my dreams and still book gigs and still make sure I made art instead of doing something that was clickbait. People will always have something to say about you, to you, and judge you. And if you want to be seen and if you want to take up space and if you want to stop being invisible, you kind of have to be okay with people loving you and some people not liking you. But I'm willing to argue, because I'm big into subconscious reality manifestation, how we show up and how our reality is being reflected back to us, right? Those comments that the people made were actually very deep subconscious wounds and layers and hate comments that I was probably saying to myself that was reflected right back to me. Because I did think and believe that at one point, like, oh, maybe I don't deserve X, Y, and Z because of materially how I grew up, which doesn't mean shit. It really doesn't. Trauma is trauma. And I saw money ruin families. Money tore my family apart, actually. It didn't give me more safety. I saw how money made people more egotistical, get into this false sense of power, and then all of a sudden, having became more important than living and loving and existing and being a kind human being. So when I saw comments like that, I was pissed. And then I wanted to hide, and I took the video down, and I was like, I don't want to be perceived anymore. And so it kind of shined a light on that trauma that I had dealt with when I was a kid, right? Like me just being me and existing, even though it's imperfect, someone's criticizing me. But if you really think about it, anyone who has something bad to say, it's like, that's actually how they feel about themselves, right? So when I saw those comments, what I could have done is meet them with love and let it go. But no, I'm an Aries. I hate to default to astrology here, but I am a very fiery gal, right? When pissed off. I've learned to tame it, which is great, but like when someone makes me mad, they make me mad, and I will say what I need to say. However, I didn't. I decided to freak out on the internet, have a crash out, post something angry, and then I was like, what am I doing? This is not me, If I become this reactive to every person that's criticizing me, then I'm going to kind of do what I did when I was a kid, right? I'm going to keep changing myself. I'm going to keep becoming a different version of myself that I'm not proud of just because I want to, quote, prove people wrong, even though I haven't gotten to that level of visibility yet, and I don't know if I ever will, and I don't really care. Like, to me, what's important is building community and developing respect and recognition and sharing and passing it down, information and lessons that I have learned to other people. That's it, right? And then, of course, creating films and winning awards, that would be awesome. That probably will happen. I know it will. But I have to have a willingness to be misunderstood and misperceived. You can't have one without the other, right? You can't have light without dark. You can't have love without hate. You can't have anything without the opposite. So to be visible, you have to be willing to be invisible to even the people that you maybe look up to and that you want to see you, right? I've had, there's so many creators that I love and respect on the internet. And of course, I have this yearning inside of damn, I wish they would just follow me back or interact with me, because we're kind of doing the same thing, and I'd like to change the world with them, that's my intention behind it. But if they misjudge my actions and my intentions, is that on me? No, that's their own stuff to handle. It's so funny. Anytime I wave my hand like this, if you're listening to this, you're not seeing this, but I'm waving my hands and under the frame you just see fingers. My ex that I dated a long time ago, the one who encouraged me to start my YouTube channel, he would always make fun of me. He'd be like, why are anytime you move your hands like this, it's just you just cut off. You just see fingers. You need to lower the frame or move it back. So I thought about that as I was doing that. But anyways, and my dad would say this thing to me as a kid, and it was kind of ingrained in my subconscious without me realizing it. But he would say something like, perception is everything. But that is his belief, right? Because he grew up in an environment where it's kind of similar, but more dangerous, I would say, physically and racially. He grew up in the streets of London with a lot of racism and a lot of, gang of stuff and people getting, this man was fearing for his life every day as a kid, just being outside. And so for him, I'm sure perception was something that kept him alive. And so my brain was taking that on, right? Of perception is everything. Yes and no. My father's such an awesome, amazing man, and I'm very grateful for like everything he has ever done for and with me. And however, sometimes the cages that our parents put on themselves become the unintentional subconscious cages that we put ourselves in because we don't know any better. And when people talk about breaking generational curses or, unchaining ourselves from the quote perceptions and the thoughts and the beliefs of our family, our generations, our, where we've come from, we just need to decondition ourselves from the information that they passed down to us, right? When you think about, I'm going to get slightly scientific. When you think about reproduction, you think about two people's cells kind of merging and coming together to create this beautiful set of information that then creates and incubates a child that has all that information, all that DNA, everything in you, right? And so give yourself some grace that you're going to have to strip that away from yourself subconsciously, mentally, and emotionally in order to not do that to your kids. In order to not do that with how you show up, and to kind of disconnect from and unplug from their belief system so you can create your own reality and allow yourself to be seen. That's what I've been moving through. And I finally kind of got through the other side of it. Like yesterday, every weekend I stay off of social media, which is something I recommend everyone do. I posted a video about it and a challenge with it. So if you want to join, go follow me on Instagram or TikTok, and you can join and do the whole thing. It'd be fun. And what that's allowed me to do is every weekend to just disconnect from absorbing what other people are doing and to just reconnect to my own thoughts, feelings, emotions, and belief systems. And I realized yesterday, I was like, if I think about little me as a kid, 4 or 5, boy, did she not care about anything or anyone. She took up space like it was nobody's business. She had curly hair. She was a little wild, but also reserved. Does that not sound like me? For 100% right now. But also, it's so funny because I got into film, and so my whole life I always worked behind the stage, production assistant in musical theater, lighting, sound. I never wanted to be on the stage because I was scared. I was scared, and I also thought that I didn't deserve to be there, and I was very insecure of being perceived and taking up space. And from that fear, I developed a whole creative identity from being behind. I still love it to this day, and it's something I will continue to do. But what likely happened is I decided I didn't want to be seen. So I created a whole story and a whole narrative and a whole persona of becoming invisible and allowing other people to take the stage. And so it's so funny because we want to blame life. We want to blame fate. We want to blame God and the universe for why our lives are the way that it is. But really, truly, I wrote that story about myself 20 years ago. And it took 20 years for me to go, no, actually. I also deserve to be seen. I also deserve to be witnessed. I also deserve to be in the spotlight and to take up space. Because why wouldn't I? Before it was because it was out of insecurity. If you think about every career move I made in my life until I decided to pursue my dreams last year, it all had to do with being in the background and understanding people and situations and having control and lighting and casting something and putting it. It had nothing to do. Yes, I love it, but also Like, I want to be and I will be the type of director in films that's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to be in my own movie. Because why the hell not? You know? And so I purposely, subconsciously put myself in the background. Because when you are a main character, and you are seen, and you do take up space, and you have something of value to say, if you doubt your own value, you doubt your own thoughts, you doubt your own intelligence, you doubt yourself, that will be mirrored right back to you until you have a chance to deal with it and to decide to shine your light anyways, despite it. So, today's episode's quite short. Take what you need from this and realize and understand that you are worthy of being seen. And you have the chance to rewrite your story however you want it to. I was in sales and tech a year and a half ago, and now I just got done shooting my first short film professionally that's going to be entered into a film festival. Your life is literally what you make of it. So instead of being the background character all the time, because that's safer, maybe decide to give yourself a chance to be in the spotlight, and if people see your flaws, fuck it. Let them. Let them. Your life is not going to be worth living if you continue to hide for the sake of convenience and not being criticized. Okay? I love you. I hope you have a wonderful day. Subscribe to me everywhere. Also leave a review. Share this with who you think needs it. And I will see you on the next one. I encourage you to follow, like, subscribe, and rate this so that it pushes it out to whoever else might need it. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you ever want to chat more about anything that this podcast is about, you know where to find me. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and good old TikTok. And be sure to stay tuned for my Tea Time with Sabi episodes